I'm certainly no big fan of the Crusades, as the Crusades mark the unleashing of open mass violence against the Jewish people, which would then characterize much of the relationship between the Christian world and the Jewish world after. But there's a big misconception about the Crusades in general, not so much as it has to do with the Jewish people. I remember after 9/11, I think it was in U.S. News and World Report, someone wrote an editorial, "No wonder the Muslims are doing what they're doing, look at the Crusades." And the reality is it's not true. As violent as the Crusades were towards the Jews, the Crusades were largely a reaction to two things. One was the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, which was, of course, rebuilt by the Muslims. But it was largely a reaction to Muslim attempts in the 700s and onward for the next several hundred years to envelop Europe from both sides, from the side of what is Constantinople, Istanbul, and from the side of Spain. A Muslim attempt to crush Christian Europe between its horns. Several times this was attempted, and it failed. Had it succeeded, there would have been no Christianity. After hundreds of years of that, the Christian world goes on the offensive itself and invades the Muslim world. And what you had 1,000 years ago was an interesting balance of basically fundamentalist Christians, not in the sense we use fundamentalists today, but very religious Christian world of Europe, which saw itself primarily as Christendom, whose battle cry was "God wills it" in Latin, fighting a fundamentalist Islamic world whose battle cry was "Allahu Akbar," God is great. And it was sort of a balance. Of course, we Jews were stuck in the middle of this with some very negative consequences. But it was sort of a balance of religious ideological war. If we jump ahead today, however, we see, and there's great lessons we can learn from the past. Today, the Islamic world, by the way, is very much stuck in the exact same place it was 1,000 years ago. It hasn't gone through the industrialization, the modernization, the liberalization, the democratization. It's still deeply religious and arguably even more fundamentally religious than it was a number of generations ago. And now with the rebirth of radical Islam, you have modern Muslim crusaders of their own kind screaming Allahu Akbar, suicide bombers attacking Israel, attacking the West, 9/11. And whereas the Muslim world is still screaming Allahu Akbar, Europe today has largely lost its will to fight and has largely lost its religious connection. And it's not that I'm certainly not calling for a new crusade, but certainly it would probably be a more stable world if we had a little more balance on both ends. And a little more, not a lot more, but a little more of what we had in the world going back 1,000 years ago.